Hi, I'm Rachel McHugh, and this is Linking Out Loud, the PR podcast. And today I'm joined by Danielle Neah Amponsah, freelance digital PR consultant, and we're going to be chatting all about lifestyle brands. So doing PR for lifestyle and wellness brands, as well as what brands and businesses in this space can do to get featured and get the brand out there. So more on that to follow. But thanks very much, Danielle, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. Good to be here.
I'm really excited to hear everything that you've got to share about lifestyle and wellness brands, because obviously that's such a big market at the moment and things are always changing. So we'll get into all of that and why it's so important. But it's always great to start with a bit of an introduction. So if you could give us a bit of your background and your experience, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started off in digital PR about 11 years ago, straight out of sixth form, first ever job was digital PR and SEO. And as you can imagine, it was very very intense. On the deep end. It was great though, because now it's a big search agency, but at the time there were only three of us. So I learned a lot. And then from then on, I just sort of decided to go in-house and use the skills that I had doing sort of general digital marketing, but also helping out with SEO, a bit of PR here and there. And then I sort of did my own thing, set up my own agency and did sort of international PR with lifestyle brands and entertainment. I worked with brands like Perkbox, Le Cordon Bleu as well. It's been great. So my background is quite diverse in terms of different types of brands that I've worked with, and it got me to where I am now, where I realised I've kind of grown as a person, and I really like lifestyle brands that have meaning and impact, that are purposeful, and also well-being as well. I'm quite big on health nowadays, and that's why I want to sort of shift my expertise to help those sort of brands to basically implement digital PR better.
Nice. Yeah. And you're not the only one. I think there's a massive shift towards well-being brands and much more of a focus on well-being. So I think that those markets are just going to continue to grow. But yeah, really interesting. You've got such a varied background, but nice to see that you're honing in on the areas that sort of mean the most to you. And today we're going to be talking a lot about that sort of thing, so the lifestyle and well-being brands. But just as a bit of a summary recap, before we get into that, what do we mean by a lifestyle brand? Like, who falls under that umbrella?
Yeah, so lifestyle brands is quite a broad term. I feel like a lot of companies now call themselves like lifestyle brands, but I think traditionally what comes to mind, you think of like retail, like clothing, and like athleisure and that sort of thing, Gymshark, Nike. You think of those sort of brands, but nowadays a lot of not just fashion, but a lot of brands are transitioning to lifestyle because they stand for something. They kind of have emotional attachment with their customers. They have like values. I always say they have feeling, like they have like emotion, and they really connect with their target audience. So because of that, they've kind of shifted into lifestyle, even though they could be from an industry. For example, they could be doing F&B, like food and drink, food and beverage, but because they appeal to a certain type of person, they can kind of fall into lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, if you look at brands like Airbnb, so Airbnb, you think, no, that's like property, that's like real estate, that's travel even. But they're lifestyle brands. Why? Because they're there to make people feel like wherever you go, you can just Airbnb it. They've built this community, this like emotion, this emotional connection with people. So I think that's why it transitions to lifestyle. So again, it is kind of broad. It's not like a great answer in terms of this is specifically a lifestyle brand. And then, of course, with wellness, well-being, it's so interesting because there's like slightly different. So well-being is kind of a bit more holistic, a bit more broader. It's kind of, you can think about social well-being, mental health, your physical, as well as obviously your actual health in terms of diet choices, etc. But wellness is more about skincare, lifestyle, diet, exercise, sleep, mindfulness. But I feel like they're all quite similar. And those kind of brands all sort of stand for making people's lives better, isn't it? So that's what I'm quite passionate about as well. And yeah, so it could be like skincare, beauty, it could be clothing, could be like yoga or exercise, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's such a broad category, but has that sort of consumer focus. I guess that's one
That's
thing that ties
right.
it all together, and that sort of emotional and human connection as well that you mentioned there. So with these sorts of brands, if we can lump them all together in some way, why is PR so important? Like, why is PR so important for a lifestyle brand, especially?
Totally, because of building connections and trust. Because nowadays, obviously, there's so much nonsense out there, so much information out there, and everyone's trying to run a business or somebody's always trying to sell something. So PR is really important to make sure that you build that trust, because not only are you saying, "Hey, I can deliver X, Y, Z for you, I can do this and that," but the customers actually want to see that you're credible, that you've actually can deliver. So if they see you in a publication, for example, they see you in Vogue, or they see you in Refinery 29, or Bustle or something like that, they build that connection because they're like, oh wow, this company, this publication is talking about this brand, and they must be good. I must try out their product and see if it works for me. And I think that's really important with PR, that brands that are in lifestyle well-being, they just sort of zoom out and don't focus too much on influencers and social media, but go back to how we used to do it. Journalists are great as well, because they will share, if they like something, they will share it, and I feel like you get double benefits, because they're going to write about you if you're good, and they'll also share about you, and others will jump on that and say, yeah, that brand is credible. I think they're worth trying out.
Yeah, trust is so huge, especially with this sort of brand. And if you're, it's the kind of product or service that you'll be investing in a lot. Like if it's a skincare brand, you might be purchasing from them every single month. So you want to
Yeah.
find those brands that you really trust, like get into that habit and that pattern. I wanted to ask you about influence actually, so I'm glad that you brought that up, because
Mm.
when you think of lifestyle brands, wellness brands especially, influencers seems to sort of be the go-to, or there's a huge market for influencer marketing with these kinds of products.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that? Does it work? Does it not work? What's the sort of problem with relying too much potentially on influencers to promote these sorts of products and brands?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, influencers are great. I love them, and yeah, but I think they're even more authentic. I think nowadays they've realised that they've got to really connect with the brand before they even talk about them, or feature their products. So definitely there has been a shift in influencer culture to some degree, but the reason why I feel that brands shouldn't focus so much on influencers, or at least have it within their whole marketing comms strategy, but don't make it the main focus. It's quite annoying when you see brands say, "Oh yeah, we do PR," and then you ask them what it is, and it's literally just influencer relations. Like, there's nothing else, and that really hurts me, because they're missing out on getting real coverage, getting real links, like SEO value. Because if you think of influencers, for example, if it's a skincare brand, beauty brand, and they're talking about a product that they've got, it literally gets posted on their TikTok or Instagram, and that's it. And then it's gone. Like, we're scrolling past it. Okay, great. We saw it. Must be good. We might click through. We might check it out. We might buy it, but that's it. But in terms of brands actually getting sustained coverage and sustained brand awareness, getting them in the press like constantly, you don't have to launch a big campaign for it, but getting press to talk about you, you can put that on your website. You can constantly talk about it. Like, hey, we got featured in Hello magazine. Did you see that? And they can keep going on
Yeah.
about it. But if you've worked with an influencer, you can't keep going on about the fact that you've worked with XYZ influencer. I think it's kind of short lived. That's why I feel like brands should look at other avenues of expanding their PR, and particularly digital PR.
Yeah, it's a bit more fleeting
That's
potentially. You
right.
see the post and then that's it. And actually sometimes now with various changes to the Instagram algorithm, etc., you might not even see it at all. So you're not necessarily reaching the people that you plan to. Whereas you might as well do something where you can repurpose that. And I feel like in PR, in SEO, some aspects of marketing, we're constantly trying to reuse content, whether it's from the blog, like can we turn that into some
Yeah.
kind of thought leadership that we can then promote, and vice versa. So if you can spin something in a couple of different ways, and you're just getting more bang for your buck. So potentially that's a bit of a downfall there.
Yeah. I feel like as well, going back into influencers, before you could kind of gift them, and if they like it, they will share it because they feel like, oh, this is actually something I would use. But obviously now everyone's chasing the money, like, oh, pay me in and out. It's all sponsored, it's all paid, and because it's moved into that sphere, yeah, people are losing trust. Whereas when it's like gifted, like generally, oh guys, I picked this up, or I've definitely, like, it's a bit more natural and real. But again, as I said, that a lot of people are moving into that sort of paid partnerships or paid posts. So it does unfortunately lose its value.
For sure.
Yeah.
So sort of beyond making sure you've got a more holistic approach potentially, what would be your advice to a lifestyle or a well-being brand or somebody working on those kind of brands to doing PR right? What's your advice for sort of working with that sort of brand and getting them out there?
Yeah, totally. I feel like first and foremost, it starts with research. I think with us that work in digital PR, we know this. We're constantly looking at numbers and data and turning that into stories, spinning angles. But doing your research, not just like, oh yeah, this is hot on TikTok, or this is no, but actually looking at the data, like look at internal data if that's the website data for the brand, seeing what products are doing well, how what the users are doing on the website. That all helps. And also the blog articles that you're putting out. Obviously, we do the SEO side where we look at uh, keywords and we look at what people are searching and volumes, and we use that to make our stories in terms of blog articles or the campaigns that we're doing, so that we can reach out to press and say, hey, we've created this creative piece about XYZ, which is a real issue that people are facing because we've done the research. And so really, I feel like it really starts there, because if you've done the research, you not only are you looking at what your customers want and their behavior and their pain points and their desires, but you're also looking at your brand because you're like, oh, that's what our customers want. It fits really well with our brand, or it doesn't quite fit well. How can we change it? And then you also do your research. You can Google, you can do like a backlink analysis, look at what the press is saying about certain topics, and then you can see if that would land well with the journalists as well. And then that all creates a really good idea for you to know, okay, these are kind of things that we should be pushing out for our brand in terms of PR content and getting that coverage and those links in as well. And that being said, I feel like brands shouldn't just rely on the press release. I talk to so many brands and that are quite new to PR, or they've got this old sort of mindset about PR where they feel like everything's about a press release, or just like a press release, and then we'll push it out. We're about to launch, we just need a press release, or we've got a new product out, let's put a press release out about it. But like, sorry to say, but no one really cared unless you're huge. No one really cared. You're just another brand. You're just another skincare brand to them. But what data do you have to support what your narrative is? Like, what's the story behind it? Why do they care? Why should they care about your brand? So that's when you can kind of segment it and think: are we doing a founder-led approach? Are we pushing something, a real life issue that our customers are facing, and then we're gonna put that out there and say, hey, we've just done some research on why people's skin burns quite a lot in the sun. Like, this is what we should be doing instead. So all of that kind of thing really does help. And lastly, as well, I'd say that they should be consistent. A lot of brands, I feel like, oh, let's just do PR. We've done it once, it didn't work. And I think me and you know, Rachel, that it does take time. Constantly got lots of ideas. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's iterate. And you get that it does work and it does get better. It's just not like influence relations. Like, here, can you post this? Done. No, it's a lot more work goes into it. And I feel like lifestyle and well-being brands, they know that they'll see the benefit.
Hopefully, yeah. I think even with clients that you've worked with for ages, like sometimes you'll do a campaign and nothing happens. It just kind of falls on deaf ears. And that's why the things like research and data are so important, to try and avoid that happening. But if it does happen, I can totally see why. If that was the first campaign you'd ever done, you'd think, oh, I guess it doesn't work for us. But we've seen in the 5 previous campaigns we did that it does work, and on the next one it will. So it's just sometimes there's a bit of trial and error there. Sometimes it's just finding the right story at the right time. So yeah, consistency is definitely key.
Yeah, totally. And not being afraid to change, as you said, not being afraid to change and be like, hey, let's not push that here. We can pick it up maybe, look, like maybe mental health week is coming up, we can push it then. You know, there's constantly a way to just pick up a story again and run with it. It's not always dead. And I think
Yeah, for sure.
that's why you need a PR person to always be on board to help you with that.
Yeah, whose whole job is just being aware of all of these things happening and managing those spinning plates. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can see why it's tough, especially if you're a newer brand or you're new to PR, that it feels like it's so many different things. But it's about finding the things that will work for you, because not every tactic is going to work for every person or every budget. So just figuring out what works, I guess. Speaking of tactics, let's sort of break that down a bit more practically, let's say. So if you were a new brand, or you were new to PR, or you're trying to change things up a little bit, what would you say are some of the tactics you can use to get your brand out there that maybe don't involve massive campaigns with massive budgets?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Rachel. This is great because I feel like in the last few years, we've seen how much journal request has just boomed, and a lot of people have banked on that. And that this is a great opportunity for lifestyle wellbeing wellness brands to do the same, whether they have somebody doing their PR for them or they're doing it themselves. Um, Definitely utilizing journal requests. So this is, you can literally hashtag journal requests on Blue Sky or X. You can also sign up to tools like Quoted, Featured, Editorial, etc. SOS, Pressflow. There's so many tools out there.
There's so many,
Yeah,
yeah.
those are the inexpensive ones as well, or the cheap, like you don't have to pay if you want. But then there's obviously more expensive ones like Rox Hill, um, Response Source, etc. But when you go on there, you can literally see what these journalists are looking for. They're looking for you. You sign up and you tick what you want. Okay, I want health, I want well-being, I want skincare, whatever it is, travel, luxury, lifestyle, and you'll get these press requests come through, and you go through them. You say, okay, this goes really well with my brand. I know I can talk about that topic, or I can't. That's not really my area of expertise. We're not going to talk about that. And that's a really easy way for you to basically get press coverage, because they're constantly looking for people to talk about expert commentary or to share your product with them. Um, that being said, what I would suggest is that beforehand, as a brand, what you should do is just really sit down and say, okay, what are the key talking points that we have? What are the key values that we have? That it goes back to marketing, really. Like, what are we? Who are we? And what do we want people to feel when we're in the press and when they come across our brand? Um, and then you can segment it further. Okay, what is our CEO or what is our founder's story? And then you have that. So you can always do a bit of personal profiling for them. And that's a really quick and easy way to get some coverage for not only the CEO in terms of building their personal brand, but also for the brand itself. So if you are a lifestyle brand and you're telling your story about how you started it because you were experiencing issues and you started it to deal with that problem, share it, and you can easily get some coverage, some top tier coverage from that. And you can also get a link back to your website or whatever it is that you're driving traffic to. So yeah, thought leadership is a big one. And then, Rachel, I would also suggest product roundups. Now, this is a big one. I think journal requests have them quite a lot. And also, if you are a PR that knows some journalists, you can say, hey, it's coming up to summer. Maybe you want to talk about summer skincare essentials for 2025, or for darker skin, or for sunburn prone skin, or whatever it is, oily skin, whatever it is. And you can pitch that product in, because they're actually looking for product roundups for spring, summer, whatever season it is. So that's a really good way to get yourself in the press. So basically, no need to pay anyone to do it, and no campaign needed. And also wanted to mention that if you are doing a campaign, if you're somebody that wants to run a campaign, but you're not sure in terms of budgets, and you feel like, I need the data, I need all of that, but I just don't have the budget to put on commission a massive piece, then I'd suggest that you just use Google Trends. Look at what people are searching over the last year, 6 months, whatever it is. See if it's increased. maybe compare that with something else that's been going on in the news or in the world, or in your industry, and then compare that and say, okay, we've got this data that's a solid piece here. We can turn that into a story, create that story, make it nice, make it pretty, create some nice design with it, and tell the journalist, hey, this is a piece that we're coming up with. Do you think it's something you'd be interested in covering or not before you actually launch it? Because we don't want it to flop. So it would be great to actually just tell the journalist, hey, we've got this data piece. This is the kind of headlines that we're coming up with, or this is how we see it going. Like, would you be interested in covering the story at all? And that gives you a really good idea for you to sort of see if that campaign is going to land or not, and if it's worth pursuing. So that's one of the top tips I'd give.
Yeah, if you haven't got loads of time or resources to dedicate, just testing the waters a bit and doing a bit of that sort of pre-outreach almost, just to see, is this what you're into? And totally agree with Google Trends, such a great resource. I don't know if you use the Glimpse Chrome extension as well.
Yeah, I love
that.
Yeah.
Like, you could just say, whatever, you sell sun cream, and such sun cream are increasing by X amount in the last year because people are suddenly so much more aware of the sort of the importance of protecting your skin. Well, there's your data, and then there's your story, and you can just link your product to that, and it just says immediately to the journalist, okay, well, here's my product, but also here's why it's relevant, because people care about this kind of product, because they care about protecting their skin. So definitely, if you haven't already, to the people listening, check out Google Trends and Glimpse as well. They've also got a great newsletter. Google Trends is a really good newsletter. I think they send it every week, maybe.
I need to check it. I haven't subscribed.
But that's a good one. Yeah, because they'll do a roundup of the sort of top trending things each week, some year-on-year comparisons, that sort of stuff. And they'll have like certain themes. Like if there's a big, like if the World Cup was happening, they'd have like a football themed one. So it's kind of nice because it does a bit of the hard work for you in terms of thinking about what's kind of happening in the bigger picture. So check that one out as well. I can link all this stuff in the description as well if people want to see what's happening with Google Trends, etc. Nice. I think there's some good advice there in terms of what brands can do. And there's loads, like without having to commit lots of time and money to it, there are so many things to do. Journal requests being a great example of that. They're coming to you, which is so nice. And I have some clients where I'm like, I wish a journal would know that we exist and that we do this thing and would come to us. But for lifestyle wellness brands, like that's very much where journal requests come into their own. Thinking about this other side of things now, maybe some of the pitfalls or the misconceptions that people have about doing PR for this sort of brand. What kind of things do you think people encounter or maybe get wrong when they're starting out?
Yeah, I think a lot of them, just the biggest misconception is like, oh, we're about to launch, or we're launching this new service, this new product, we need some PR for it, which is great. Yes, definitely. We could do with some more eyeballs, more traffic, more everything, more sales. But the biggest misconception, I think, is just thinking, oh, we need to launch something before we're ever going to be press worthy, which is so wrong. It goes back to what we were saying, like if you actually have something valuable to give. I know valuable, like being valuable, providing value is thrown around a lot. It's like, what does that mean? It's basically helping people solve an issue, identifying that problem and being like, okay, our product or our service, without giving them a hard pitch, it's just like, this is something that you can genuinely do to help solve that issue, or this is identifying where it is and saying that this is what you can do to get past it, or to be that desired person that you want to be, instead of just saying, okay, we've just launched this massive product, this is what it does, it's great, it looks fantastic, talk about us. Like nobody wants to, that's an advert, we don't want to push products onto people or services onto people, but they just genuinely want to do so, want something that will help them. And that's what journalists want as well. It's like, okay, but why should I talk about you though? Because what benefit is that giving my audience? They have a very hard time as well, and they need to make sure that what they're talking about has value in terms of people looking for that content in the first place. And I think we know that a lot of journalists now, they're using SEO a lot. They need to make sure that their content, their articles are optimized so people actually care about it. And I think like, as PRs, we have that important role to play to make sure that we make their lives easier in terms of providing them with something that genuinely people want to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that you don't need to launch anything new. Tell your story in terms of how you started your brand or how your product or service helps solve an issue, a real life issue. There's something that I actually saw recently. It was a brand that I came across, and they do like natural hair, so mostly like for black people, and they have like a big box, like a treasure. It's called Treasure Chest, and you subscribe and you get like lots of cool hair products.
Oh, yeah.
And they did a campaign recently. They partnered up with another hair care brand, and they did a whole bit of research looking into how basically your hair care routine or your hair sort of type kind of affects your fitness. Like, yeah, it's such a cool one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll find it and send it to you. Like
Yeah.
how it affects your fitness, like your ability to kind of like go to the gym and things like that.
Mm.
So they did the research, and I don't have the stats, but I found it really cool. And then they used that to they kind of did a bit of traditional PR with it, where they teamed up with a gym, and they got some influencers in it and got some press to write about it as well. And in the gym, they provided the actual products and stuff that they could use in their hair to make, or sweatbands and things like that, to make sure their hair doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
Just support them so they're able to feel like I can exercise, I will go to the gym, I will put my fitness first and not let my hair get in the way of that. So I just feel like it's a really cool like real life issue that us women, some of
Mm.
us face, that they're actually looking to solve. And I thought that's such a cool thing. And in terms of
That is
digital
cool.
PR, I would have made that better by actually having like a landing page with all the
Mm.
details, make it look really nice, getting more of the press to talk about it and link to it. I think that was a missing thing that I think a lot of
Yeah.
brands miss out on in the well-being space. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
wellness.
If you don't have that knowledge of digital PR in the same way, sometimes you can do all of the same steps. Like they've obviously done the research into what their audience cares about. They've created this whole campaign. They've shared that with press, influence, etc. But they haven't bothered to. Sometimes it's as simple as just not asking to include a link. You know, you see a campaign and it's mentioned all over the press, but they just haven't gone out and said like, "Can you add a link?"
Yeah,
And then suddenly it's digital PR. So
that's
you
it.
know you're so close. Just there's that little bit extra you can get out of it. So I think it's important to be just aware of those kind of
That's
things.
it. Yeah, totally. And that it's a big shame. I think a lot of brands are missing out on that. Just like, can you just set up a page or something like a blog post or
Mm.
something and drive the traffic there, get people link them to the product page, whatever it is. But yeah, you're missing out on that digital PR bit. It's quite sad to see.
Yeah, I think that's a nice example of a campaign though, and it just shows like you just play into what your audience, the people who are buying your product, what they want and what they care about, which in
Yeah.
that case is clearly like really well connected. You know, you don't need to focus on like, oh, this product is launching or this thing is happening. You know, if people don't know about your brand yet, what you need to focus on is more just who am I trying to reach? Even
Mm,
though you have to go through a journalist, ultimately that journalist is writing a piece that's going to appeal to the readers, the people buying the product. So you still have to think about that end user. But I like the sound of that. I'll look into that or send that over to me and I'll
yeah,
pop it in
totally.
the description box so people can check it out. It sounds like a good one. But yeah, it's nice to see those campaigns where you think, oh, that's cool. Or like, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah,
I love seeing
yeah,
those. Yeah,
yeah.
cool. So sort of wrapping up here a little bit and thinking a bit more about the bigger picture in a way. We've kind of talked about how when it comes to lifestyle and wellness brands, it's not necessarily just about having a post with an influencer, having links and that sort of thing.
Mm,
Trust is so important.
mm.
Building your brand, building the trust in your brand. When you're looking at something like that, how do you measure if that's been successful? If you're not just saying, okay, I want 10 links. If you're saying, okay, I want to improve the trust or the awareness of my brand and the visibility of my brand, like what are your indicators of success, or what does good look like?
Yeah, I know this is a typical thing because it changes depending on the client, the brand, what their KPIs are, what their overall marketing goals are, and their business goals are. So it does differ. But in terms of PR playing a role into that, I always say there's like the triple R metrics, one that I use. So looking at rankings, like are they ranking higher for certain key terms that that they want to rank for. Like if you're searching for, I don't know, curly hair products, why are you not showing up on Google or even on TikTok if that's the thing that you're going for? Like what, we want you to rank higher for certain keywords that we have identified. So that's one way of tracking it, seeing how your PR activity is actually improving your SEO. And then obviously there's brand sentiment. How are people talking? Like how are people perceiving your brand, and what are they talking about when they come across your brand? Is it good? Is it bad? Or are they confused? What is it? What's the sentiment like? So measuring that is a big part, I think, of building trust and seeing how PR plays a role for lifestyle, wellness, well-being brands. And then in the bigger picture, because I said how PR plays a big role, it needs to be integrated within the whole marketing strategy and business goals. We need to know what everyone else is doing. I think that's something that some people don't realise. They thought, oh, no, it's just PR. Like, no, we need to know what everyone else is doing to some degree, so that we can get it right and we can see how further down the line, like in months, years to come, how our role helps business. Because brands these days, they do need to obviously survive. They do care about their bottom line. So we want to look at if the campaign is about driving more eyeballs or ideally more sales, pushing the product, let's say a category page, product page, whatever it may be, we will want to track eventually what that conversion is looking like eventually. But as I said, looking at what other marketing channels we're using. Are we using emails? Are we using social media? Are we using other platforms to help as well? And just sort of making sure it's all integrated. I think that really helps to see if your PR is successful or not. So going beyond the links and DA, DR, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, a lot to consider. And it just goes to show, right, like what's good and what's successful for every brand will be different based on what it is that you're trying to achieve, where you are, like how long you've been around, what is it, a product, is it a service, etc. Yeah. So there isn't a hard and fast answer. If only there was. But yeah, all sort of things to bear in mind. So the last little segment that I like to do for the podcast is PR this or that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two options, or several pairs of options, I should say, and you just tell me which one you would go with. Gut instinct. You don't have to explain it or justify. Go with what feels right. So the first one is reactive or campaigns.
Reactive.
Don't hold me to it. Next one is product PR or founder-led story.
Both. Can I say both? Because I love both.
You can say both. There's no real rules. Yeah. I've made this up. Morning or afternoon outreach?
Morning.
Bulk send or send individually?
Send individually. That's what I do.
It's funny when you start to see the split. I should do a big comparison at the end to see how people lean, but there's a real divide. Moz or Ahrefs?
Ahrefs.
Follow up or no follow up?
Follow up.
In-person meetings or virtual meetings?
This is a tough one. You said I don't need to explain that. I feel like I need to.
I think this is the one that gets people.
Yeah. Virtual, because I don't live in London anymore and I thought it's quite difficult where I'm at. But I'm starting to lean. I don't know if it's because the sun's out. I just really want to see people face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice. Like you couldn't have all of your meetings in person. Like you'd spend all your time on a train.
Yeah.
But it's just nice.
Need that human connection, I feel like. Just want to, see
people. I'm sure, especially in freelance life. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for playing along and answering all my questions. I think there's been loads of really useful advice there and insights. So hopefully people have taken a lot away from this and are feeling inspired to jump into the world of PR for lifestyle and wellness brands. I really, really appreciate that. So thanks for coming along.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. Love the podcast. It's been great.
You can always find Danielle on her LinkedIn or via her website, and I'll include both of those in the description box so you can check that out. As always, you can find myself, Rachel McHugh, and Distinctly on LinkedIn. Do connect with us and follow along for the latest updates on Distinctly News and the podcast. And wherever you're listening to this, check out some of the other episodes and give us a follow.